yourself a lot. Most women never say this out loud about intimacy. Watch closely. These truths change how you understand connection. Many women rarely speak openly about sex because their experiences are deeply shaped by emotional context, trust, and psychological safety rather than physical acts alone. For a large number of women, intimacy isn't something that can be isolated from how they feel in the relationship overall. When communication is weak, respect feels absent, or emotional needs are unmet. Sexual desire often declines even if physical attraction remains. This connection between emotional well-being and sexual openness is frequently misunderstood, leading to assumptions that overlook the underlying dynamics shaping women's experiences. One truth women often don't verbalize is that feeling desired matters just as much as being loved. Desire isn't only about physical appearance but about attention, effort, and consistency. When attraction is taken for granted or reduced to routine, many women feel invisible rather than valued. This emotional disengagement can silently affect intimacy, yet it's rarely discussed directly due to fear of conflict or being perceived as demanding. Another rarely expressed reality is that stress significantly affects women's sexual interest. A mental overload from work, family responsibilities, emotional labor, and social expectations can suppress desire without women consciously realizing it. Many internalize this change as a personal failure rather than a natural response to prolonged stress because society often expects women to be emotionally available at the times this topic remains largely unspoken. Women also tend not to say that feeling emotionally understood often precedes physical closeness. When conversations like depth or emotional validation is missing, intimacy can feel transactional rather than meaningful. This isn't about manipulation or withholding affection. It reflects how emotional connection influences physical comfort and vulnerability. A common but quiet truth is that many women feel pressure to perform rather than to experience intimacy authentically. Cultural narratives, media portrayals, and unrealistic expectations often create anxiety instead of pleasure. This pressure can lead women to prioritize their partner's satisfaction over their own, even when it results in emotional disconnection over time. Women rarely talk about how past experiences, both positive and negative, shape their present comfort levels with intimacy. Emotional memory plays a strong role, and unresolved experiences can influence boundaries, trust, and communication. Silence around this topic often stems from fear of judgment or misunderstanding rather than unwillingness to share. Another overlooked truth is that sexual confidence is closely linked to self-image, and many women struggle internally with body perception, especially as they age or experience life changes. Even in supportive relationships, unspoken insecurities can limit openness and enjoyment, yet these feelings are often hidden behind reassurance or humor. Like and subscribe for more. Women often don't say that consistency in emotional behavior matters more than occasional grand gestures. Feeling secure comes from predictable respect, not sporadic attention. When emotional reliability is missing, intimacy can feel unstable, making it difficult for desire to grow naturally. A rarely discussed reality is that women may disengage sexually when communication feels unsafe. If expressing needs has previously led to dismissal, defensiveness, or ridicule, many women choose silence over honesty. This withdrawal is frequently misinterpreted as a loss of interest rather than a protective response. Many women don't openly admit that feeling listened to outside the bedroom influences intimacy inside it. When opinions, concerns, or emotions are consistently overlooked, sexual closeness can feel disconnected from real partnership. Intimacy thrives when women feel their voice matters in everyday life. Women also seldom say that a sexual desire can fluctuate without meaning anything is wrong. Hormonal changes, emotional cycles, and life stages naturally affect interest levels. However, societal pressure to maintain consistent enthusiasm often prevents honest conversations about these shifts. Another honest truth is that emotional intimacy often feels riskier than physical intimacy. Opening up emotionally requires vulnerability, and when trust is fragile, women may protect themselves by limiting closeness. This is rarely framed as fear. Instead, it appears as distance or disinterest. Many women quietly feel that being respected outside of intimacy defines how safe they feel within it. Respect and conversations, disagreements, and boundaries strongly influences how comfortable women feel being vulnerable. This connection is often underestimated or ignored. Women rarely articulate how much emotional exhaustion affects desire. When they carry the emotional weight of a relationship, planning, remembering, supporting intimacy can begin to feel like another obligation rather than a shared experience. This imbalance often goes unnoticed. Another unspoken truth is that intimacy is influenced by how conflicts are handled. Unresolved tension doesn't simply disappear. It often resurfaces as emotional distance. Women may avoid intimacy not out of punishment but because emotional resolution hasn't occurred. Many women don't say that trust is built through everyday actions and not promises. Reliability, honesty, and follow-through create emotional safety. Without this, intimacy may exist physically but feel emotionally incomplete. Women also tend not to say that a comparison whether to past partners, media standards, or unrealistic ideals can deeply affect comfort and confidence. Even subtle comparisons can linger internally, reducing openness and self-expression. Another honest reality is that women may feel disconnected when intimacy lacks emotional presence. Being physically close without emotional engagement can feel empty rather than fulfilling. This experience is rarely discussed openly because it's difficult to articulate without sounding critical. Women often don't say that feeling emotionally appreciated increases desire more than compliments alone. A recognition of effort, understanding of struggles, and emotional support create a deeper sense of closeness than surface level praise. A rarely voiced truth is that women may avoid discussing dissatisfaction because they fear hurting their partner's feelings. Silence becomes a coping mechanism even when it leads to a long-term disconnection. Many women also don't express that intimacy feels safest when expectations are flexible. Pressure for consistency or performance can undermine natural desire. Feeling fear to say no without consequences is often essential for genuine closeness. Women rarely say that emotional intimacy often begins with curiosity. Feeling genuinely known through questions, attention, and interest creates a foundation for deeper connection. When curiosity fades, intimacy often follows. Another unspoken reality is that women may need reassurance during life transitions, changes in health, career, or identity can affect confidence and desire. Without emotional support, intimacy can feel uncertain or distant. Women often don't admit that feeling emotionally prioritized matters when they feel secondary work devices or external distractions. Intimacy can lose meaning. This isn't about control but about presence. A quiet truth is that women may disengage when intimacy becomes routine without emotional renewal. Novelty isn't always about excitement. Sometimes it's about a renewed attention and emotional investment. Women rarely say that emotional safety allows them to express boundaries honestly. When boundaries are respected, trust grows. When they're challenged or ignored, withdrawal often follows. Many women don't talk about how deeply emotional neglect affects desire. Even subtle emotional absence can create distance that feels difficult to explain. Over time, this distance becomes normalized rather than addressed. Be part of our family by subscribing. Another truth is that women often need time to mentally transition into intimacy. Emotional presence doesn't switch on instantly. Without this transition, intimacy can feel disconnected or forced. Women also seldom say that intimacy improves when vulnerability is mutual. When emotional openness flows both ways, closeness feels shared rather than one-sided. A rarely acknowledged reality is that women may struggle to express needs if they feel responsible for maintaining harmony. Avoiding conflict can lead to silence even when a dissatisfaction exists. Women often don't admit that emotional trust is fragile. Once broken, rebuilding intimacy requires consistent effort, patience, and accountability, not pressure. Another honest truth is that women may disconnect when they feel misunderstood repeatedly. Feeling unseen can gradually reduce emotional availability, even if love remains. Women rarely say that intimacy thrives in environments of emotional equality. When power imbalances exist, openness often declines. Many women don't express that emotional connection is dynamic and requires ongoing care. Intimacy isn't a fixed achievement but a process influenced by daily interactions. Ultimately, what women rarely say about intimacy is that it reflects the health of the entire relationship. Emotional safety, respect, communication, and understanding shape desire more than isolated moments. When these foundations are strong, openness follows naturally, and when they're weak, silence often speaks louder than words. Thank you for watching. Have a lovely time.